Good evening and welcome to tonight's Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Let me introduce some members of town government that assist this board. To my left is Simone Bogarty, Assistant Town Attorney. To her left is Blaise Donadio, Planner in the Planning Department. You are all here tonight seeking relief from the Smithtown zoning ordinances, and it's our job to try to help you achieve the relief you are requesting whenever possible. It's up to you to provide this board with precise and accurate information so we can make a decision based on the facts presented. This board must consider the 5 area variance considerations in order to render a decision, and they are as follows. Number 1, whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties will be created by the granting of the variance. Number 2, whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance. Number 3, whether the requested area variance is substantial. And number 4, whether the proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district. And number 5, whether the alleged difficulty was self-created. Procedures for tonight's meeting. Cases will be called in the order they are advertised. When you are called, please present your certificates of postings and mailing to Mr. Donadio if you haven't done so already. Then you'll be asked to go to the podium. We will state your name and address for the record, and then proceed to tell us why you need your variance. At the end of your presentation, if anyone in the audience would like to speak on your case, they will be given one opportunity to do so. Then the applicant can get back to the podium to answer their concerns. Once the public hearing is closed, no further information will be accepted concerning the case. There are 2 ways to find out about your case. You can call the planning office tomorrow after 12 p.m., or you can wait and be notified by mail. We do have one adjournment tonight. That is case number 18938, Amato Law Group, DBA as Verizon Wireless. That has been adjourned to the next meeting, which is June 27th.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first case on the agenda is case number 18939, Branch Funeral Home, 2115 Jericho Turnpike, Comac. The location of the property is the north side of Jericho Turnpike, 255 feet east of Indian Head Road. The property is zoned WSI. The applicant is requesting a variance to increase the height of a wall sign from 15 feet to 21 feet for a proposed 53-square-foot wall sign.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tremarco. I represent the applicant. I've submitted the affidavits of posting and mailing to Mr. Trotta. I guess we all know the Branch Funeral Home. They've been in Smithtown for longer than I've been in Smithtown, and that was a long time. The building in question originally, as I recall, was a Chuck E. Cheese, and then it became a Bar Louie, and now Henry Viglianti and his family purchased the building down the block from where my office is, and it's been beautifully converted to a funeral home. I guess you could say it's these applications have come full circle, because started off as a children's entertainment place, then it went to an adult, I guess you call it, entertainment place, and now Branch Funeral Home is there to service the community in the event of a death of family members. So we asked the board for its favorable consideration. The sign that we're proposing was also the same type of sign and height when Bar Louie had the application and had the building. We don't think it would make an undesirable change in the character of the area. It's a commercial area. The sign was previously allowed for Bar Louie. Whether the benefits sought by the applicant can be done by some other method, it really can. If you look at the pictures, that's the only place it can be erected above the building. You can see it on the monitor there, and the lower picture shows you the entranceway and the sign above it. Whether the requested area variance is substantial, not really. Again, it was permitted for Bar Louie, and really makes little difference, the sign, except that this is a kind of a smaller, more unique sign, and we think in very good taste. Whether the alleged difficulty was self-created, we haven't put up the sign. We're asking this board for its favorable consideration. Thank you.
Proposing is illuminated.
I'm sorry?
The sign that you're proposing is illuminated. Is
Yeah.
it going to be on?
No, they close when they close they shut the lights off when the funeral home is, normally closes at 9 o'clock, so,
Going
yeah,
on?
they'll go off, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else on the board have any questions?
No, thank you.
No, thanks.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18940, Daniel Jelsic, 148 Shady Lane, Smithtown. The location of the property is the northwest corner of Shady Lane and Brookside Drive. The property is zoned R21. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 50 feet to 20 feet on Shady Lane for a proposed 6-foot PVC fence.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Daniel Jelsic. I reside at 148 Shady Lane. We've been there for about a year and a half now. We have two small sons. One is turning 1 this month, and the other is 3. And we have an old stockade fence up right now from the previous owner, and it's just kind of falling apart. We'd like to replace it with a 6-foot PVC fence, but we'd also like to bring it forward, as I've highlighted there, reducing the front yard minimum from 50 feet to 20 feet in that one area. The reason is just to create a bigger yard for my kids to play in, have a little more privacy in the yard. It is a corner property, so there is some traffic there, and I just figured if we could do that, that would be great.
All right, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Lanny?
Just to make a comment to the board, as the board is aware, someone who lives on a corner lot is permitted by the code to have a fence set back approximately 10 feet from one front yard lot line. However, if you do read the code, that is provided that the fence does not extend beyond the face of the house. If you look at the survey up on the screen, you can see that the fence is extending past the face of the house on Shady Lane. So the idea of the ordinance is that the fence could be even with the face of the house and go all the way to within 10 feet of a lot line. That's it.
All right, thank you. Excuse me. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18941, Trevor Bosco and Fanny Colmenares, 3 Fernwood Drive, Comac. The location of the property is the southeast corner of Fernwood Drive and Ronde Drive. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard setback on Ronde Drive from 45 feet to 15 feet for a proposed 500 square foot detached garage. Increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the front yard on Ronde Drive from 25% to 34% for existing and proposed asphalt driveways.
Good evening.
Good evening. Name is Trevor Bosco. I reside at 3 Fernwood Drive, and this is the project that I would like to see if we can get the variance for. Gennaro's going to speak for me. He's my builder
Okay.
constructor.
You couldn't hear him at all? You're going to want this gentleman to speak on your behalf, correct? Okay. He's the property owner. Sir, introduce yourself, spell your last name, get it correct on the record, and give your address, please.
Gennaro Cozzolino, Cozzolino. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Gennaro Cozzolino for the homeowner, Trevor Bosco, residing at 3 Fernwood Drive, Comac, also known as Section 121, Block 5, Lot 10, located in the R15 zone. We're requesting relief from the board to construct a 20 by 25 detached 2-car garage in a secondary front yard. The proposed addition requires front yard variance, requesting to build at 15 feet instead of the required 45 feet, a difference of 30 feet, and variance for paved surface in the front yard, requesting 34% from permitted 25%, a difference of 9%. The addition will be built on the same side as the existing driveway to minimize the need to pave any further. Proposed addition will comply with all other zoning requirements, will have no significant impact to the environment, will not affect any of the adjacent properties, and will fit in with the character and nature of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
Thank you.
Planning?
Just a couple of notes for the board. Excuse me. The chairman and I did some inspections yesterday morning, and this applicant's property was one of them. We did note that within about a 500-foot radius of the applicant's home, there were no accessory structures that size within the required front yard, and that the setback request is about a 67% reduction of the requirement. That's it.
Is that a pool there, an above-ground pool?
Yes,
Above-ground pool,
above, yes.
okay. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? All right, come on up one at a time, please. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Frank De Niro. I'm at 3 Pine Cone Lane, Comac.
Frank, can you spell your last name so we get
D
it
as in
correct?
David, Enaro. I'm in opposition of the proposed building structure that Mr. Bosco has asked for. He is on a corner. That's a heavily traveled corner of Fernwood and Ronde. I have some pictures that I would like to present to you. There is already a lot going on that corner. To add a structure that's 500 square feet is almost 1/4 the size of the existing structure alone. It is not nearly in conformance with any other structure that is around there. If he was between 2 houses, there would be no opposition whatsoever. But to go from 45 feet to 15 feet on Ronde Drive, if you were going on Ronde Drive from Pine Cone towards Fernwood, it's a very difficult spot because there's a curve in that street right there. He's already got a structure that is a soft garage that was put up a year ago or two. I'm not exactly sure when. He's got a camper there, and he's got a trailer there, all on this property, and now he wants to add on another 500 square foot structure. I mean, what are we running here? This doesn't seem like a home. It seems more like it's a parking lot for whatever his concerns are. I personally believe that it would not be in conformance with the existing structures, and I would love to just hand you pictures that I've made. These are large size, and these are smaller size, just so that you can have grass
Right.
around and see the other members. And it shows what the view is.
Okay, thank you.
Also, I think that it could create an obstruction from Rondé Drive to Fernwood, and also from Fernwood onto, making a left onto Rondé. The gentleman already has a two-car garage at that house. Why would he need another 500 square foot garage, especially on a corner lot? That's my position. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you. Who's next? Come on up, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Philip Giannaco. I reside at 5 Fernwood Drive.
Excuse me,
am-
Phil, can you spell your last
Oh,
name?
my apologies.
So we get it correct.
Last name is Jennaco. Again, I reside at 5 Fernwood Drive, one house south. If you see the lot, I am directly across Rondé Drive. That's my house right there that you're hovering over. I am in total support of Mr. Bosco's proposed addition. I happen to disagree with the gentleman who spoke before. There's not a lot going on. It's not, I don't see how the garage would have any effect on traffic passing up Rondé Drive. It's not a, it's not a high-traffic area. There's actually not too much to look at between myself and Trevor's property and Pine Cone. You have a white PVC fence on the south side, and you have Rabbi Mendel Teldin's synagogue on the north side with a wooden fence, so there's not much to see. There is quite a bit of vegetation and trees that would, along the fence line to the rear of Mr. Bosco's property, that would obstruct the view coming up Rondé Drive, where you probably wouldn't even see this structure until you're well past it, and by then you're approaching a stop sign at an intersection, and you probably have your attention focused on the stop sign and oncoming traffic. I would ask for favorable considerations from Mr. Bosco. I'm in full support of it, as well as the neighbors who I've spoken to as well, who couldn't be here this evening.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you very much. Someone else had their hand raised? Sir? Good evening.
Good
He wants to get
evening.
on- wants to get on television. There you go.
My name is Mendel Teldon, Mendel, last name Teldon. I am the rabbi to the right of the property. So it's 318 Veterans Highway, frontage on Vets Highway, but right there. Yep, right there. Very good. I'm the rabbi there. So the property under this conversation, his rear would go up right against the side of my property. I am supportive of this decision, and I think it would be great, and he's a good neighbor, and it's his property, and I support what he wants to do on it.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much.
As he does as well.
Okay. Is there anyone else like to be heard on this application? No? Would you like to come back to answer this gentleman's concerns?
Yes, I'd definitely like to address some of his concerns. He did bring up the fact that I do have a green tent there. I do have a trailer. All that's going to go away. The whole point of having a two-car garage there is to get rid of that, so we don't have to see that. The reason I want an additional garage is I do have some classic vehicles. I do have a camper that I want to be able to keep safe. I don't really enjoy the fact of having vehicles parked directly under my bedroom, because the two-car garage that's attached to my house now is under my bedroom. I don't like having vehicles down there. So the goal here is to get rid of the tent, put the camper next to it, so you won't see any of that. The garage is set back behind the house, so it's not going to interfere with any vision as far as coming up to the corner. That will still be completely clear and open. And if the above-ground pool that you mentioned, if that seems that we need to go a few more feet in, if we have to, I'll be willing to get rid of the pool at that point, if we have to.
No. Everybody, excuse me, sir. Everybody gets one opportunity. Hold it. Let me finish, please. Everybody gets one opportunity. That's what I said at the beginning. After you're done, we bring the gentleman back, the applicant back, to answer your concerns. That's it. That's it.
That's the question I'm asking. He mentioned something about the camper, so I think it's reasonable to ask.
You're out of order. You're out of order.
I'm sorry?
I said you're out of order. Go ahead.
Yeah,
That's all I have. Thank you for your time.
okay. Thank you very much. Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18944, excuse me, John Barnett, 148 Southern Boulevard, Wisconsin. The location of the property is the west side of Southern Boulevard, 211 feet north of Wysocki Court. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 45 feet to 22 feet for an existing 6-foot PVC fence.
Good evening.
Good evening, the board, ladies and gentlemen. Come over here, stay with me. Yes, first off, I'd like to apologize. I hired a lawyer previously to handle this situation, and there was a miscommunication between my attorney and myself, and he was more interested in money instead of resolving the problem. So I had to handle this myself now. And I just wanted to address the 5 points regarding the variance. Effect on the neighborhood, it will enhance the neighborhood. There's other properties that I have pictures of in the neighborhood that have the same fence in the front yard with similar setback. So the neighborhood will be enhanced in regards to factor point 1. Point 2 is whether there's an alternative solution to the variance. There wouldn't be. I have an in-ground pool. Like to keep the neighborhood kids out of the in-ground pool in my backyard, and I have dogs. I'd like to keep them from jumping over a 4-foot fence, which I could have there instead of the 6-foot fence. Point number 3, how substantial is the request? Is it a unique situation? I believe it's a unique situation because I'm a corner property. So I have, basically I have 2 front yards, and that makes it a unique situation. Point number 4 is the 4th consideration, potential impact on the area. Will the variance of physical, environmental considerations, there will be no negative impact. There'll only be positive impact. Point number 5, whether the difficulty, necessity of the area variance is self-created. No, the fence, it's not self-created. The fence, it's allowed, 4 foot is allowed at the current locations. I'm just requesting a 6 foot. There is no covenant issues anymore. I changed the gate so the gate doesn't swing open like a driveway. Now it's just a walkthrough for the lawnmower and snow blower, or, I don't know if you have a picture. I have pictures. Do you have pictures of the property, subject property?
Steve, this is the wrong one.
I have current before and after pictures. I could. I don't know if you have these. I have,
Yep, we have 'em.
those are the before, and then I have after pictures. I changed the gate so it doesn't swing open like a driveway. You can only walk through with a lawnmower or a snow blower, or to cut the grass and go back in your property, something like that. It's no longer a driveway, it's just, there's just pavers there and a sidewalk, and it's no longer a driveway. No more covenant issue. I have current pictures if you need, of the current configuration of the fence.
Yeah,
I have it.
could I see that, please?
This is the current configuration,
Right.
it's no longer a driveway. Also, I wasted a lot of money on the attorney on this situation previously, over $12,000. My attorney previously, we didn't communicate very well. We were on different frequencies. He was more interested in money than resolving this situation. I'm more interested in resolving. I was always interested in resolving the situation, and he was interested in making money. So I'd like to get this situation resolved. I'm willing to plant trees around the perimeter so there's privacy like there was before. There was trees around the perimeter, and a perimeter of the fence, and along there's a wooden fence. I could put trees there, and there's also a PVC fence. I could put trees there, evergreens, and they'll go up to about 15, 20 feet for privacy. There'll be a privacy buffer, and just in closing, I'm willing to work with my neighbors and get this situation resolved. I had a bad lawyer that did not handle this situation properly, and I'd like to get it resolved as soon as possible. I just want to note that I'm a retired police detective and a two-war veteran, Iraq, Afghanistan. I'm lucky to be alive. I kissed the ground when I got back from Afghanistan when I got off the plane. I'm very lucky to be alive, and I also had an incident as a police officer. I'm very lucky to be alive also from that incident.
Is that it?
That'll be it unless there's any other factors that I need to address.
Let me ask.
I guess I'd like to understand in your words what your understanding of the covenant and restriction was on the...
It's lot number 3 covenant. One moment, I got it right here. No access and, no egress, ingress into the property from Laurel Court. One moment, I got it right here. Lot number 3, no fence, accessory structure is permitted west of the line drawn parallel to 220 feet away from the front property line along Southern Boulevard. A note shall be placed on final map for this condition. A declaration of
So this is
covenants
220.
and restrictions is required for this condition to be filed with the Office of Suffolk County Clerk.
Okay, no, I see it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Anyone else have any questions?
Question? Yeah.
Planning?
Just to reiterate what Mr. Barnett said, so when this subdivision was approved back in 1991, the name of the filed map is Laura Park. There was a bunch of conditions placed on the approval. In addition to that, there was a covenant filed with the Suffolk County Clerk that basically limited access to this particular lot, which I believe is lot number 3, from Southern Boulevard only. No ingress or egress could be allowed on Laura Court. What Mr. Barnett referred to as the 220-foot setback from Southern Boulevard, if you look at the screen, you can see the red line that's drawn along the northern property boundary and then cuts south to the southern property boundary on his property. That is the 220-foot line that cannot be passed if any structure is to be constructed within the setback on Laura Court. So anything on that line, a 4-foot fence could be on that line with obviously no variance, 4 feet permitted in the front yard. If Mr. Barnett wanted to maintain the 6-foot fence, he could do so on that line, but he would need a variance for the 6 feet because it would be in the required 45 feet of the front yard. However, the existing curb cut and what's labeled on this survey as existing driveway would not be permitted according to that covenant. If Mr. Barnett wanted to maintain that, he would have to make an application to the planning board requesting a waiver of conditions in the covenant, allowing the curb cut and the driveway to remain.
Thank you.
I have a question for planning. So the current fence is not on the red line, the current fence is on the blue line as it shows on this drawing?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Sabrina?
Mr. Chairman, to ensure full compliance with our environmental review, we wish to consider information presented by the applicant as well as any comments from the public before making a recommendation to the board. Therefore, no decision will be made tonight. Thank you.
You understand all that?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll be making an application for a waiver for the curb cut
Okay.
and
Okay.
Good evening. Okay. I just want to submit for the record, the covenant and restriction that was, the declaration that was made on February 27th, 1992 into the record. I'm going to submit that to the stenographer over there. And this was what Mr. Donadio was referring to. And also, I just wanted to advise the board and make a record that the applicant here had previously made an application or request for a variance for the fence and the curb cut here, and the Board of Zoning Appeals denied the request, and thereupon there was an Article 78 filed, and I want to submit the decision that was issued by a judge in a court December 10th, 2021, and that's going to go into the record as well, where the court affirmed the decision of the BZA. Thank you.
All right.
thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? One at a time, gentlemen, come on up. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Fred Glock, G-L-O-C-K. I reside at 19 Laura Court in Wisconsin. On June 9th, Friday, I submitted an email to the board requesting a denial of the variance. I, too, was a police officer for over 30 years, 9/11 responder, not to mention other disasters that I also responded to. In the email, it states that I am the owner of 19 Laura Court, which is located across the street from Barnett's property. I'm the original homeowner. I've been there for over 30 years, since 1993. Due to the fence not conforming to other properties on Laura Court, as no other homes have a 6-foot fence within 22 feet of the curb, and there's also a declaration of covenants and restrictions on file with the town of Smithtown governing our properties. John Bennett challenged the declaration of covenants and restrictions in Supreme Court, State of New York, and our covenant was upheld. The declaration states that on his property, no fence or accessory structure is permitted west of a line drawn parallel to and 220 feet away from the front property line along Southern Boulevard, among other restrictions, including the curb cut in the driveway. Due to the issue of nonconformity and the declaration, I request that the town deny his variance request.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir?
Hello,
Good evening.
everybody. My name is Jim Monet, 21 Laura Court, Nesconset, M-I-N-E-T. I just have 5 points to make. One is, before I start, I want to say that I admire Mr. Barnett's grooming of the property. He keeps it well. We have no argument with him personally. This has been a dispute going on since 2016, and it's really about the covenant and restrictions, which that argument's been laid out, so I won't go over it again. A few of the points I want to make is that we did make a good faith effort in 2017 after the board met in another public forum hearing where they suggested we meet with Mr. Barton and his attorney and try to find a compromise solution. So we did that, and we proposed at the time pretty much exactly what Mr. Barnett is saying he'll do now, which is to keep the fence in its current position, put up a privacy barrier. We spelled out what that would look like, as long as the curb cut and driveway were removed. That was our compromise. But he rejected the compromise, and subsequently in the next meeting, the board heard us again and eventually denied his request for variances. So subsequent to that, Mr. Barnett then went to file an Article 78 that went to the Suffolk County Supreme Court, and 4 years later, basically, the court ruled that they dismissed the case against the town and ruled that the covenant restriction had standing. Now, specific to the covenant restrictions, there are 2 points I want to make. One, you've already heard that Mr. Barnett's lot number 3 cannot have access to Southern Boulevard from his property. Granted, Mr. Barnett has put up a post in his driveway so that technically you couldn't drive a car through there now, but the curb cut and the driveway still remain. So some future homeowner might pull that out and there's a driveway there and you could see the problem. The curb cut and driveway needs to be removed to be in compliance with the covenant and restrictions. The other point about the fence being 220 feet from the front property line back as far as you could go, by altering the front property line, obviously, he's trying to pull the current fence into compliance. And I understand that. And I don't necessarily have a problem with him having the fence where it is at 6 feet. If there was some type of privacy barrier there, I wouldn't stand in his way once the remedy of the driveway and curb cut is solved, once it's removed. Then I have no issue. Finally, I want to make the point that if you look at the covenant and restrictions, it does say that within the covenant and restrictions, I'm sorry, let me put my glasses on. When this started in 2016, I didn't need these. The within covenants and restrictions may be amended, annulled, altered, or repealed at any time upon the consent of the owners and, the owners of premises and the planning board of the town of Smithtown, not or the planning board, right? So we're in this together legally and after a public hearing, and that the covenant restrictions shall be enforceable by the declarants and successors in interest and by the planning board and by the planning board of the town of Smithtown. So it's not as simple as Mr. Barnett filing for some type of appeal because the homeowners would have to agree with the town planning board. As I understand it, of course, I'm not an attorney, nor am I an ex-police officer or military veteran, I'm sorry to say. And one final point is that the picture Mr. Barnett showed created a very attractive image. But if you look at, and I'll submit this for you, the before and after, where the cul-de-sac was completely, and his house was completely buried behind trees and foliage, and now it's completely open. Although well-groomed, and it looks nice, the problem is from the elevation of my neighbor's houses and my house, the viewpoint is different than the one you saw before. Actually, we're looking directly into his backyard. So I appreciate that Mr. Barnett would be willing to put up a privacy barrier, but it's been 7 years, there's been no remedy and no action taken. So all I'm asking is that any allowance or consideration of this variance would be contingent upon the curb cut and driveway removed and some agreement for a privacy barrier put up. That's all I'm really asking for. Of course, my neighbors would have to speak for themselves. I will leave this photograph for you, and I'll make, if you don't mind, I'll just add one other thing, because Mr. Barnett did mention and refer to the area variance considerations. And I do want to say that if you took the covenant restrictions out of the formula, you could argue that whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood can be addressed with this photograph, which shows us looking into his backyard. So in effect, having a pool, imagine visually if a neighbor across from you had a pool in their front yard. That's kind of what this would look like. You're looking out your front window or your living room, you have guests over, and you're looking into somebody's backyard, into their pool. So yes, in terms of the considerations, item number one, I think it does produce a dramatic change. Can this be averted by some other method? Yes. As I stated, if Mr. Barnett's willing to do what he says and put up a privacy barrier, take out the driveway and curb cut, then it's resolved. Potentially. Again, I can't speak for my neighbors. They may disagree. Is this substantial? I think it's a substantial change, but that's opinion. Environmental impacts, no. That's a separate issue in terms of the amount of trees he took down on his property. That's not anything I'm discussing here. And finally, was it self-created, the problem? There was a lot of confusion at the time, but the town did issue a letter telling Mr. Barnett that he would have to, they rescinded the permits for the curb cut and driveway, and I believe the fence, and that he'd have to return the property to its original look. So, but instead, he completed the work on the project, and here we are. So I think the consideration of the 5 points can also be discussed, and I'm challenging the way Mr. Barnett characterized it. But I think the covenant restrictions is the most important factor to consider. So I'll leave this for you, if I may.
Thank you. Is there anyone else like to be heard on this application? Barnett, you'd like to come back and answer? No? Okay, fine.
Chairman, one moment. Perhaps based on some of the testimony by the neighbors, the most recent person that spoke, you may want to leave the application open just to see if Mr. Barnett wants to take these comments into consideration and perhaps do any of the work and maybe come back to the board and show that a privacy screening has been installed, that the curb cut and the driveway have been eliminated, as opposed to closing it and then having to come back again.
Is that a possibility, sir?
Yeah, I'll talk with him at his office. That's a possibility.
So how much time do you think would be good for you? They have to set a date. I can't do that.
July 11th,
July 11th?
next week?
No, no, no. I guess July 11th, yeah. So tentatively, July 11th?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll come in and speak with me, but tentatively, the board will adjourn this to July 11th, so that gives you enough time to... Okay.
You understand? We're not going to close it, we're going to keep it open. We'll see you all back here on the 11th. Okay. Thank you.
I think this is hers. All right.
The next one?
We good, Steve? Or- I think he needs a minute ticket.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. The next case on the agenda is case number 18945, Albert Lagoria and Barbara Sciola, 23 Brewster Avenue, Fort Salonga. The location of the property is the north side of Brewster Avenue, 390 feet west of Heights Road. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 100 feet to 86 feet for a proposed 1,152 square foot second-story addition and 102 square foot second-story deck.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Albert Longoria. I'm a new owner at 23 Brewster Avenue, and we're looking to make some renovations on our home. I would like to have our architect, Kenneth Schulman, speak on our behalf.
Fine. Good evening.
Good evening. Ken Schulman, SCHULMAN, 209 Lynn Avenue in East Northport.
Thank you.
Good evening. My clients have recently purchased the subject property, which hadn't been updated in many years. Their hope was to expand and modernize the house to today's way of living. To accomplish this, we have designed a two-story rear addition that will create a modern open floor plan with an expanded family room and kitchen on the first floor, and an expanded primary bedroom suite with walk-in closets and its own bathroom on the second floor. The two-story rear addition will have a proposed rear setback of 92 feet, where 100 feet is the minimum required. The expanded primary bedroom will also include a rear deck that will extend out 6 feet and reduce the proposed rear setback to 86 feet, where 100 feet is required. Because of the layout of the existing house, which has a side exterior cellar staircase and a side chimney, it would not have been possible to design a conforming addition to the side of the house. The other side of the house has the garage, so we could not put an addition there as well. The only alternative for the design the owners were trying to achieve was to expand to the rear of the current house. The property is a little unusual that is a flag lot, which causes it to have a rear yard setback currently of only 108 feet, which is much less than the adjoining properties, making it difficult to expand to the rear without requiring this variance. The benefit of the flag lot is that the addition wouldn't be seen from the adjoining side properties. The house to the rear is over 200 feet away from the proposed addition and is well screened by many mature trees, and therefore it will have no adverse impact on that property. Because of this, I don't believe the variances we are requesting are substantial, and the proposed addition will still be in keeping with the character of the current neighborhood.
Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second?
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18946, Jason Howard, 55 Gristmill Drive, Kings Park. The location of the property is the northeast corner of Gristmill Drive and Landview Drive. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 34 feet for a proposed 100 square foot portico.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Jason Howard. I reside at 55 Gristmill Drive, Kings Park.
You can lift that up if you...
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, we're just putting a portico. We're bumping out the porch a couple of feet. I believe that'll add tremendous value to the neighborhood as well as the house. A lot of, it's the original siding, original soffits, kind of everything original around the house, so it needs to be replaced. I believe it conforms to all 5 variance considerations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
Thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18948, Anthony Ambrosio, 11 Knight Lane, Kings Park. The location of the property is the north side of Knight Lane, 92 feet east of Archer Lane. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to decrease the minimum distance from any lot line from 6 feet to 1 foot for an existing raised patio, to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the rear yard from 25% to 37% for the existing raised patio, to increase the maximum height of a fence from 6 feet to 9 feet for an existing 6-foot fence on top of the raised patio, to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the side yard from 25% to 62% for existing paving, to decrease the minimum setback from 1 foot to 0 for existing paving in the side yard.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and fellow board members. My name is Anthony Ambrosio. That's Ambrosio. I live at 11 Knight Lane, Kings Park, New York. I had a built-in pool installed last year on my property by the pool company in addition to a dry well. I was told to let the property settle before putting any pavers in or doing any other additional work. And in addition, the grade of my backyard, the pool company suggested that I have one portion of the right side of the pool installed up so that the pool would be level and avoid any water runoff. I waited a year, let it settle. This year I had contracted a paving company to put the pavers around, and the paving company suggested that, you never have enough patio area, so I went with his plans to put as much patio in as possible, including a small portion of a raised patio area. Subsequently hired a fence company, put a fence around it, and we were discussing that raised patio area, that if I put the fence at 6 feet and we stood at that area, the fence would be at my waist, looking into my neighbor's backyard. So the decision was made to make it 6 feet from that raised patio area. Did all the work, paid all the money, went to the town for an inspection. The inspector comes and I get told about the 25% paving rule, which I was not aware of at the time. Called the paving company and I said, hey guys, do you realize that they take the space that the pool is removed from the yard? You're only allowed to, pave 25% of that. And he said, no, I didn't know that. Is that a rule? I'm like, yeah, and it would be nice as a paving company if you knew that rule. The reality is, if I knew these rules, I would comply. I'm not here to break the rules, and I know you guys have got more issues to deal with at the town of Smithtown than my backyard, but the work was done. So I went to the town, I went to the inspector, I met with the gentleman right there about doing these variances so that hopefully the variances could be passed and I could complete the backyard, get on with my life. Most of what I've done is just, again, for the pool areas, to have some areas to relax, entertain. Relevant to the side of the house, there was a large deck that was falling apart. So I thought better to get rid of the deck, put a small stoop, and put a patio there. Unbeknownst to me, that's the area we're talking about in question. Unbeknownst to me of the 25% area rule in effect, that at that time, I would have did the stoop and did a much more or less area of a paver. So at the end of the day, the work was done. I don't think it's going to be that big of a change to the character of the property or the people around me. It's in my backyard, it's gated. If you look at the back photo, there is enough trees there where it is pretty much covered from my neighborhood, but right there where that high section is, if I put that fence down to the 6-foot level, it's basically looking over in my neighbor's yard. which my wife expressed about a privacy issue, obviously being up on that area of the pool. So I'd like to see that the variances get filed so I can continue the work and close this out. And I can assure the town board that, you know, if I even think about planting a bush, I'm gonna go to the town and find out what the rules are before I invest this money and do things like this, because, you know, I'm about following the rules.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
My only comment, Mr. Chairman, is that, you know, based on the photos, if you look at them, it appears that there's a pretty substantial buffer beyond the fence, where the fence is increased to 9 feet. There may not be any visual impact to the adjacent neighbor. I don't know if any neighbors are present that are going to speak. If there are, perhaps they can let you guys know how they feel about it. But it's a rather small section of fence that actually exceeds the maximum 6-foot height. Overall, I don't necessarily know I would say it's substantial because it's not the entire backyard, but it does exceed the 6 feet. But I think the fact that you have the mature trees right behind it does mitigate the height of the fence.
All right, thank you. Sabrina?
Mr. Chairman, the existing overpaving in the rear and side yards appears to conflict with the approved plans for the New York State DEC permit that was issued for the property. To ensure full compliance with our environmental review, we wish to consider information presented by the applicant, as well as any comments received by the public before making a recommendation to the board, so no decision will be made tonight.
So do I need to,
So you will need to reach out to DEC, you will need to reach out to DEC to determine if the overpaving still conforms.
Okay.
And so we need to see that determination.
so I would just go to the DEC with the new survey and present that to
Yeah,
them?
you can reach out to them
Okay.
with the information that you have and
Absolutely.
find that out.
Consider that done.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Board Chairman.
You too.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18949, Robert and Lisa Makowski, 24 Huron Lane, Comac. The location of the property is the north side of Huron Lane, 1,050 feet west of Pheasant Drive. The property is zoned R15. The applicant is requesting variances to decrease the minimum distance from any lot line from 8 feet to 1 foot for an existing 160-square-foot shed, to decrease the minimum distance from any lot line from 8 feet to 2 feet for an existing 131-square-foot shed, to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the side yard from 25% to 54% for existing paving.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. I'm Robert Makowski, M-A-I-K-O-W-S-K-I, and it's my wife, Lisa.
Hi.
So, I'm sorry. Lisa Makowski?
Yes, we
So
have.
we're looking to just get the variance for the 2 sheds that are on the property. I don't know what to say about it, but we're just limited with space, so I have the sheds. I have a family of 6, so we just keep a lot of storage in the sheds. Sheds are beautiful. They're sided nice, stoned, and, you know, I have trees in the barrier of the fence, of the shed, so they kind of obstruct it a little bit, so just looking for the town's approval.
So you have a total of 3 sheds?
Yes.
3 sheds. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
Planning?
No, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just so the board is aware, town records do indicate that the existing pool does not have a permit and is not included in the current application. To ensure full compliance with our environmental review, we again wish to consider information presented by the applicant and any comments received by the public before making a recommendation. Therefore, no decision will be made tonight on this application.
Did you say pool?
Yeah.
Well, the pool was removed from this, that was removed years ago. There's no pool there, which the town is aware of.
Okay, well, okay. Noted.
The wood walkway goes around where the pool
No,
was.
all of that's been removed.
Oh,
with
it's
the
all
town.
gone?
Yeah, everything is gone there.
It's still on the plan.
Oh, is it, right?
Yeah.
No, everything is gone from
Well,
there.
town records still show that the pool is existing and there's not a permit, so that's the only information I could go by.
Oh, interesting, because I've gone to the town, you know, obviously, I might have to go back, but they took it off there, it was off the redone survey. My expediter is here, I don't know if she's,
Excuse me.
oh,
Are you going to talk? Then you have to get up here.
Oh.
So we know who you are. Could you introduce yourself,
Hello.
please?
Hi, I'm the expediter. We had several times submission. Oh, my name. Okay. Hi, my name is N-A-Z, first name, last name, B-I-R-J-A-N-D-I. I'm the expediter. I think it started last year. We had some inspector down in the town that we had some violation issued, not notice of violation actually. So we started having the land surveyor visited the town, but the owners, they're changing their minds. So they're removing so many of these items that you see in the survey just to compliance with the codes. So what you see in the survey is not a new survey. We have the pool completely removed. We have the decking area around the pool completely removed as well. So in the permitting department, they just cross it with a line for me, and then I'm gonna update the survey when it's needed.
Okay, fine.
All right? Thank you.
So in the interest of trying to figure out how they get a secret determination, should they have the town come and inspect that the pool was in fact removed, or how do you want them to deal
Well,
with it?
if there's a record that it doesn't exist and they have that information, we would like to see that. So, because building told us that it's existing and there is no permit, so.
Can I add something? Sorry. Because what's happening, this owner removed everything, and I visited the permitting department and asked them to remove them from the court visit because they're going every month and then wasting almost half of the day going to the court, but it's not removed there. So, yeah. We really want it to be removed because we have more submittal to do. Maybe we need to remove it from the court because every month we have a visit to the court. Even I asked the Department of Building that we are removing so many of the items that was not in compliance with the code.
So should they call the building department to have it inspected?
I think that might make sense,
That's-
yes.
Your best bet's to call the building department so that they have on their records that
Yeah.
it was in fact removed. So then DEW can give you the secret determination, and then we can make a determination.
Okay, sounds good. All right, thank you.
Sure.
All right?
So I have to go back to the town and have an inspector come and look at it, basically.
Yeah, call the building department, ask someone to come out just to
Just so you
verify.
understand, sorry, the process is we have to wait for DEW to give us a secret determination
Right.
for us to make a decision. We can't get DEW to make a determination on the secret until that is satisfied in their eyes. And to do that, the building department needs to tell them that the pool's no longer there. So
Right.
even though it's not there on the survey, just have building come and look at it, and then we can get what we need.
And then we gotta schedule one of these again, I guess.
No,
Oh,
no, we don't have to do that anymore. It's just
Oh.
we can't get them to give us what we need.
I got you, no problem. That's it, thank you.
One second. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No? You can't speak from the, if you want to speak, you have to come back up, please.
I have to add because I have many customers, but I could say that their house, it looks beautiful. They added so many new improvements, and everything looks at the right place. So that's what I'm adding.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you, have a good night.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18950, Anthony Gonzalez, 208 Northern Boulevard, St. James. The location of the property is the west side of Northern Boulevard, 170 feet north of Cleveland Street. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce the total side yards from 28 feet to 26 feet for a proposed 432 square foot two-story addition and a proposed 180 square foot second-story addition on top of a roof-over patio.
Good evening.
Good evening, Board. My name is Anthony Gonzalez. I'm the current homeowner of 208 Northern Boulevard, St. James, and I'd like to have my architect, Mike Morbillo, speak on my behalf.
Fine, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, my name is Michael Morbillo, architect and Spire Design Group. Office is located at 273 Lake Avenue, St. James, New York. So the application that we have before you this evening, basically, as was stated, is for rear additions on the home. The property is an existing non-conforming lot, and I guess somehow in the development, instead of being developed with a total 28-foot total side yards, it was developed with a 26-foot total side yards. So the houses were originally constructed in the early 60s. And so in essence, we're now looking to increase the level of nonconformity on the residence. We're maintaining those existing setbacks. We do conform to the minimum side yard setbacks. However, the total is where the house is presently deficient. Otherwise, we meet all other zoning requirements. And as far as the 5 criteria, I'll just jump to it. The circumstance was not self-created, as the conditions of the lot have been there since it was created. So if the board has any questions at this time, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
Oh, thanks.
No, thank you. Planning?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next case on the agenda is case number 18942, Jason Reiser, 41 Brookfield Drive, Fort Salonga. The location of the property is the west side of Brookfield Drive, 443 feet north of Sene Road. The property is zoned R43. The applicant is requesting variances to increase the maximum height of an accessory structure from 15 feet to 26 feet, to increase the number of stories from 1 to 2, to permit an accessory structure in the required front and side yards, to reduce the minimum side yard setback from 24 feet to 21 feet, to reduce total side yards from 60 feet to 45 feet, to increase the square footage of an accessory structure from 750 square feet to 2,616 square feet for a proposed 2,616 square foot two-story detached garage, to decrease the minimum setback of an existing 3-foot retaining wall from the property line from 3 feet to 1 foot, to reduce the required setback of a 6-foot fence to a 6-foot retaining wall from 6 feet to 0, to increase the height of a 6-foot fence on top of a 6-foot retaining wall from 6 feet to 12 feet for the existing fence and retaining wall, to permit environmentally sensitive lands to be altered for steep slopes greater than 15%, for an existing 6-foot retaining wall, to increase the gross floor area of the lot within the LWRP from 4,956 square feet to 6,328 square feet for the proposed 2,616 square foot two-story detached garage.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Jason Reiser, R-E-I-S-E-R, here with my wife Gail Reiser, G-A-I-L. We are the owners at 41 Brookfield Road, and I'd like Gennaro Cozzolino to speak for me, please.
Thank you.
Again, Gennaro Cozzolino, Cozzolino. We're here requesting relief from the board to construct a detached garage with storage loft above. The proposed addition requires permission to be built in the required front yard and side yard. Variance for height, requesting to build at 26 feet instead of required 15 feet, a difference of 11 feet. Variance for number of stories, from 1 story to 2 stories. Variance for minimum side yard setback, requesting 21 feet from permitted 24 feet, a difference of 3 feet. And variance for total side yard setback, requesting 45 feet from permitted 60 feet, a difference of 15 feet. Variance to increase square footage of a detached garage from 750 square feet to 1,616 square feet with the 1,000 square foot loft above. We're also maintaining a retaining wall and 6-foot PVC fence that were installed by the previous owner. The retaining wall requires a variance for minimum side yard setback, requesting 1 foot from permitted 3 feet, a difference of 2 feet. Variance to increase the height of a 6-foot fence on top of a 6-foot retaining wall, from 6 feet to 12 feet, a difference of 6 feet. Variance to reduce required setback of a 6-foot fence on top of a 6-foot retaining wall from 6 feet to 0 feet. Permission also required to alter environmentally sensitive lands and to increase gross floor area of a LWRP zone from 4,956 square feet to 6,328 square feet, a difference of 1,372 square feet. Proposed addition will comply with all other zoning requirements, will have no significant impact to the environment, and will fit in with the character and nature of the neighborhood. The homeowners understand that these are substantial variances being requested. However, the zoning board has approved similar applications for accessory structures larger than permitted. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess the applicant, the need for a, what is it, 2,600 square foot garage?
Sure. It's 1616 square feet. It's meant to be about a 6-car garage for car storage. I'm a car collector. Like to be more of a car collector, but I'm kind of hesitant to purchase something and not have a place to put it. We're currently paying storage at about $500 per car, which gets a bit onerous and difficult to continue that as a hobby. We'd like to be able to do this on our property, and we're hopeful that based on its sort of invisibility from the street and keeping the character of the neighborhood, hopefully that's a possibility, and we're happy to work with you folks and our neighbors however we can.
And the loft is just for?
Just for storage. It was, if we can have some additional places to put like our outdoor furniture in the winter and things like that. Moving.
Okay. Anyone else on the board have any questions?
Yeah, I'm looking at the drawing here that was submitted with the application. It shows the structure 15'7". Was it changed? 15'7" off the property line?
I'm sorry, you're saying 15 feet back from the property line, like on the right there?
To the east.
That property line, gotcha. What do you have there? I'm not sure. Yeah, we're showing 15'7".
That's what it shows on this drawing.
I'm sorry, was that in conflict with, was in writing, or?
I thought it said 21. Let's see. Yeah, it says 24 to 21.
Reduce minimum 24 to 20. I see that. That may be an error, and I think we have to correct that unless the survey data is wrong. Should we guess there?
Can I ask you, why do you need a 6-foot retaining wall and a 6-foot fence on top of it for 12 feet.
Those are existing. They were there when we moved into the house. We were unaware that they were not properly permitted previously. There was previously a stockade, like a pressure-treated wooden stockade fence on top of that wall, also 6 feet, in the same place as the now PVC fence. When we moved in 2012, that fence was falling apart. As best we can tell, it was probably done sometime in the late 80s or early 90s based on just the age of the fence. It probably should have been permitted at the time. I know a portion of that fence is below 30 inches. A large portion of it is below 4 feet, or the wall, excuse me. But obviously the location and the fence on top of it are issues that would require variances. And we're here because it was discovered along with our application and someone said, what is this? So we want to make it right.
But it appears that that fence and retaining wall, you're the only one that's impacted by it because it runs through the center of the back of your yard?
I believe that's the case. Yeah,
This
there's
fence.
the wall runs on the property line or nearly on the property line. The property across that, we've spoken to those folks. The way our two properties kind of grade down into a little bit of a valley there, he has a deck. He wasn't really even aware of the wall until we pointed it out. And he said, it's fine by me. But like I said, I'd like neighbors to be happy with what we're doing. So if we can put in some common sense restrictions or whatever we need to do, we're happy to do that.
Is it possible to decrease the height of that accessory structure a little? Because 26 feet, one of the things that we try to not do when we give relief on a side yard is to not increase the height too much, because as you cut down the side yard and you increase your height, it impacts the neighbors a little more.
No, I understand that. We'd definitely be willing to bring it down a little further. I believe there's been some applications that have been approved in the low 20s, 23 feet. We're just looking to have some additional storage space. I don't want to have anything that's not allowed, so we're certainly willing to work with you folks however needed.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else on the board have any questions? No? Planning?
Just to give the board a sense of what the applicant is asking for, the requested height to 26 feet is an increase of the permitted height of 90%. The number of stories from 1 to 2 obviously is 100%. The total square footage being increased from 750 square feet to over 2,600 square feet is 2.5 times what's permitted by the code. The permitted floor area for the existing home and the proposed garage exceeds the permitted floor area within the LWRP by approximately 25%, which there has not been an application submitted for yet for our LWRP review. And if the proposed side yard is at 15 feet, that's an approximate 40% reduction of the required side yard.
Thank you. Sabrina?
Mr. Chairman, the survey submitted indicates that a portion of the existing driveway encroaches onto the residential parcel to the east. DEW recommends that any approval include a condition which requires the removal or legalization of this encroachment. Additionally, in order to ensure full compliance with our environmental review, we wish to consider information presented by the applicant, as well as any comments from the public before making a recommendation to the board. So no decision will be made tonight. Thank you.
If I can address that question of the encroachment briefly, from what I've seen of aerial views, it appears to date back to the original construction of the neighborhood. Our house uses the flag lot to the north as an easement, as it's drawn. It looks like it crosses that corner of 39 Brookfield kind of prematurely. As to the question of could that driveway be moved further up, my concern would be that that's actually another slope. We're willing to do whatever you folks think is appropriate. My guess is that was done either as this is the best way to pull this off in 1959, or someone made a mistake absent having GPS and such at the time. The folks at 39 are aware, 39 Brookfield. We've talked to them about having a hold harmless. Obviously, if someone were to be injured on that portion, it shouldn't fall on them since we're using it. We're talking about it. I'm not sure if we've made headway necessarily, but we're happy to do whatever we have to do to treat this the right way and environmentally so as well. Thanks.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Come on up, please. Good evening.
Evening, Charles Muller, 7 Seashell Lane, Muller. Just want to make a quick point to affirm the lack of any impact on the character of the neighborhood. I live in the neighborhood with the Risers for 15 years. I've passed their house thousands of times, and I could not tell you what it looks like because it's not visible from Sene, not visible from Brookfield or from Marion's Lane. So for me, there'll be no impact on my life, and the project, increasing the garage, I'm sure I won't be able to see it. So that's all I wanted to say.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you.
No power of attorney?
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Mark Anthony Monastery, architect. My clients are stuck in the hospital with their mother. They're not able to make it to the hearing tonight. So if I could, I'd like to push this back because, number one, it's a mother-daughter, and I don't have a power of attorney.
Oh, you don't have a power of attorney?
I didn't do it.
18943.
The next meeting, the 27th?
Yes, sir.
All right,
That worked for me.
okay.
I apologize.
That's quite all right.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Good night now. So case 18943 is adjourned to June 27th. Okey-doke. The next.
The next case on the agenda, case number 18947, St. James Fire Department, 535 North Country Road, St. James. The location of the property is the north side of North Country Road, 351 feet east of Mauritius Road. The property is zoned CB. The applicant is requesting a special exception to permit a membership club in CB zoning, a variance of a special exception standard to reduce the required road frontage from 100 feet to 90 feet, a variance of a special exception standard to reduce the required acreage from 1 acre to .62 acre for proposed 1,446 square foot building addition and 309 square feet of interior alterations.
Good evening.
Good evening. Mr. Chairman, my name is William Etzel, E-D-S-E-L-L, President of the St. James Fire Department, and I would like to have our architect, Mike Morbello, speak from our behalf.
Fine, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, Michael Morbillo, architect, and Spire Design Group. Office is located at 273 Lake Avenue, St. James, New York. Mr. Chairman, the application before you this evening is for a special exception. In addition to the special exception, we are looking for some minor variances relative to some of the standards of the special exception. Basically, what we're proposing is an addition onto an existing office building that the fire department would like to move some of their offices into, and then also have a meeting room. So we're proposing a one-story addition on the rear of the existing building. And as part of this development, we're also proposing parking in the rear of the building,
And we are also proposing new drainage and a new low nitrogen septic system. We have, just to kind of cut to the point on a couple things, we have received the Planning Advisory Report dated June 7th, 2023, which I'm sure will be read. But we've reviewed it extensively and are in agreement with all of the points that are made and all of their recommendations. Primarily, why we're in front of the board is that the fire department is considered a membership club. So they, as part of that, they fall under the special exception criteria. And part of that criteria is that they are, in having this type of membership club, there's minimum lot size and also minimum road frontage. So the first item that we have under a variance standard is we're reducing, it's an existing lot that they had purchased. So presently it's already 90 feet wide, has 90 feet of frontage, where 100 feet is required under the special exception. Secondly, the lot size is 0.62 acres, where 1 acre is typically required. I think generally, the fire department sort of falls into a little bit of a special category. Some of the membership clubs have more things going on, whether it's catering or other things or larger events. This is basically to have small meetings with the membership. Again, the addition is a little bit under 1,500 square feet. It's primarily a meeting room and handicap accessible bathrooms, that type of thing. And so what we're doing is besides those two items from the special exception, everything else on the site is being developed in accordance with the central business CB zone. So we don't need any relief on anything else as far as development of the site. It's just under these special exception criteria that were before the board this evening. As I just want to put on the record also is, if I am repeating myself, apologize. We understand that there has not been a SECRA determination made for the case tonight, as stated in the Planning Advisory Report. We are proposing a low nitrogen system that's been submitted under Suffolk County Health Department reference number C-23-0193. And of course, we're handling all stormwater runoff in conformance with town standards. And this will be fully reviewed by New York State DOT for any impact there also. So I just want to get that on the record. And if the board has any questions at this time, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thanks.
Planning.
Mr. Chairman, as Mr. Morbillo stated, planning did provide the board and Mr. Morbillo with a planning advisory report based on our review of the application. We recommended approval.
Thank you. Sabrina.
Mr. Chairman, we would like to see that health approval. If you could please forward that to our department. Additionally, to ensure full compliance with our environmental review, we wish to consider information presented by the applicant and any comments received from the public before making a recommendation. So no decision will be made tonight. Thank you.
Absolutely. And just to clarify if I misspoke, it's under review with the health department. So we'll get that reference number and that
be great.
information. Hasn't yet been approved.
Just to see the application was submitted and that confirmation is what we will need.
We'll forward that immediately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? Can I have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
This is the fellow, he didn't have the power of attorney last week. You should have been here last week.
The next application on the agenda, 18926 Edward Owinski, 19 Tyrum Street, Comac. The location of the property, the north side of Tyrum Street, 672 feet west of Montrose Drive. The property is zoned R10. The applicant is requesting variances to reduce the minimum front yard setback from 40 feet to 35 feet for a proposed 35-square-foot portico, to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the front yard from 25% to 32% for an existing asphalt driveway, to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the west side yard from 25% to 60% for an existing asphalt paving, to increase the maximum permitted paved surface in the east side yard from 25% to 47% for existing concrete paving, to reduce the minimum setback of paving from the front and side property lines from 1 feet to 0 for existing paving.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Ed Osinski, that's O-W-S-I-N-S-K-I, 19 Tyrum Street, Comac, New York. I'm going to have Sal Kosher from Permits R Us speak on my behalf.
Fine, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, members of the board, Mr. Chairman. Salvatore Koshia, Permits are Us, 338 Jericho Turnpike, Syosset, New York, 11791. As you-
The spelling?
COSCIA. You're welcome. We're proposing a portico, as you stated, to diminish the front yard setback. The proposed portico is in keeping with the neighborhood. The existing pavers and the overpaving, I should say, and the setback on the parking were not created by my client. The home was purchased this way. They were obviously done by the previous owner. My client put an application to do some renovations to his home. These issues came up to maintain and legalize. Mr. Osinski did speak to his neighbors to the right and left, who stated they have no objection to what's currently there, nor do they have an objection as to what he's proposing to do with the front portico.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone on the board have any questions on this application?
No, thank you.
No? Planning?
No, thank you.
I don't think there's anybody here for us.
I have to say it anyway. Is there anyone in the audience like to be heard on this application? No. Can you have a motion to close the application, please?
So moved.
Motion has been made to close the application. It's been seconded. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good night, everybody.
Sorry about the confusion last time.
Thanks, everyone.
And that concludes our meeting for tonight.